Tough question to ask you. I mean, I can't hear you at home, but, we often wonder how you're doing because there's been a lot going on over the last couple of months. It has been emotionally tough. But there is common ground among us, believe it or not. And earlier today, friend of the show, mental toughness expert Eric Rittmeyer joined me for a little chat from the comfort of our own homes.
I can't wait to get back in studio with you, man.
Let me tell you, it has been. You're at home. I'm here right now. Let's talk about what we've seen. We know that we've gone through a campaign, an election that dragged on for a while. We saw what happened about a month ago at the Capitol. We just went through an impeachment trial. And I think you know that the loudest voices in the room are the ones that get all the oxygen right now. As you look at the national climate, the national conversation, like what are some of your takeaways, and what do you think are ways that we can move past this and try to find that common ground?
Yeah, this is the million-dollar question, Jim. The problem is, as a nation right now, we're just intoxicated in emotion. We're incapable of logical thought processes. So everything we see, everything we read, everything we hear, we're processing that emotionally, and there's no logical thought process going into it. That's a major, major problem. I'm referring to this as collective punishment for isolated guilt. So what we're doing is we're taking these situations that are happening, and then even though they're very isolated, we're assigning collective punishment to that whole group of people. So what ends up happening is we inadvertently defend these people, and these one percenters, I call them, because we feel attacked because people are assigned this collective punishment. We have to sober up, get off the emotion, learn how to process logically, and learn how to view things with our eyes, not with our hearts.
I think one of the biggest problems we have with whatever you want to call it, a national conversation or the national emotional temperature, is that so many people are quick to say the second you veer from their thought process, the second you disagree with them, you automatically classify them as the enemy. And I think that happens. You don't want to. I think it's always a cop out to say both sides, but I think it really is in this point a both side situation.
Well, here's what it boils down to, Jim. So we have belief systems, right? We have these beliefs that might be tied to things from 20, 30, 40 years ago that have no statistical data to support what we believe. But the minute somebody produces a fact that conflicts with one of those beliefs, we automatically default to defense mechanisms. Name calling, getting upset, getting angry. We're incapable of suspending our disbelief, so we can just hear an opposing point of view. And when we have people we disagree with, ultimately what we both want to do when we leave that conversation, we just want to feel like we've been heard. We don't have to agree with each other, but we want to leave each other feeling that, you know what, Jim, I disagree with 99% of what you said, but I do hear you. I am listening to you. And the problem is we're listening with the intent to reply, not with the intent to understand.
And I think especially too that speaks to social media and what that's become, because it's just everybody has an opinion on something. And, whether it's you post something about how you feel and somebody is quick to chime in and say, this is why you're wrong. And I think it just comes down to, I told some people, hey, look, January 6th here in D.C., it was a pretty intense place to be. And suddenly that conversation turned into, well, it's this person's fault. No, it's that person's fault. And I think we all have, as you said, our belief systems, and we all feel a certain way. And I think sometimes it's cathartic to vent, but I think so many people aren't conditioned to listen. They're just conditioned to react.
They are. And the problem is when we react, it's emotion-based as opposed to responding, which is logic-based. And again, if we would just understand that we're hardwired to feel first and think later, we're going to have an emotional reaction to everything that happens to us. If we're not aware of it, our triggers get pulled, we then react emotionally, as opposed to understanding these triggers and then systematically desensitizing our brains to these situations. So we're put in a situation, we're not reacting emotionally, we're processing it logically because internally, we've already had a chance to think about it in our minds.
Eric, I got about less than a minute to go here. So if you find yourself, if somebody watching right now finds himself in a conversation with somebody where, they're trying to find that common ground and they're not getting to that point, they're not able to find that thread, what's your best advice?
I think it all has to start, Jim, with understanding that the person next to us, we have more in common than we think we have different, right? So I think it all starts with accepting the fact that we're good-natured people. We all are. If we can start off with just understanding we have opposing points of view, but at the core of who we are, we're just different variations of the same core psychological blueprint. We all want kindness, compassion, empathy. We want our kids to be happy. We want to grow up nice. We can't assume because we have a disagreement that we dislike each other. It's okay to disagree and still like each other.
Eric Rittmeyer, the author of The Emotional Marine. I love it. There's no way of missing the book behind you because it's right there. It's about as tall.
Yeah! It jumps in my shirt. I got to just put new batteries in this thing, Jim. Come on, man.
Eric Rittmeyer, good to see you again, my friend. Thanks for joining me tonight.
You're the man, Jim. Thank you, sir.
All right, the LA Police Department's investigating a